So I had a doctor yesterday tell me I should stop running because I'll wear out my joints. Nothing could be further from the truth, my friend. Nothing could be further from the truth. Hi, I'm Ralph. Welcome to Ageless Runner. Hey, if you enjoy running, please consider subscribing to my channel and click that subscribe icon down in the corner anytime during this video. First off, I'm not going to rant about doctors. I have a lot of great doctors, have them in the past, have them now. They've done a lot of good for me. But I think this guy was speaking a little out of turn because he was not an orthopedist or a sports medicine doctor. When I quizzed him a little more, he's talking more about observations he's made than some of his running friends. The research supports that running does not cause osteoarthritis and actually has less joint issues than with non-runners. Think about it. Sedentary people don't work their joints, they don't get that lubrication that we do when we run. Now, people often talk about the impact of running, and that's true, there is impact. But when you run, your feet touch the ground less frequently and for less time than when you walk. So the impact between walking and running is not all that different. Now, I haven't researched the data, but my impression is runners do not have a higher incidence of knee and hip replacement than non-runners. In fact, everybody I know who's had a knee or hip replacement have been non-runners. But let's face it, we do get injuries as a runner. Especially in knees and hips, maybe ankles. But there are some things we can do to minimize that and maybe not ever have a running injury. So here's some advice I'd like to share with you that I've learned and through some of my research I've done over the years. First thing to think about are your shoes. Avoid minimalist shoes. You want some cushion, especially run on pavement like I do a lot of times. If you trail run, you want to do the minimalist thing where you're running on softer ground, that may be fine. But you need some cushion or padding under your feet to help absorb some of that impact energy. Next thing about the design of your shoes, particularly one characteristic, and that's offset or heel drop. That's the amount of distance that your heel sits above your toes. And typically most running shoes are 8 to 12 millimeters. And there's been studies to suggest that the amount of offset doesn't impact rates of injury, but does impact the location of injury. And typically the higher the offset, the more likely the injury will occur in the upper part of the leg, like the knees and hips. Lower offsets may be more at risk for ankles, Achilles tendons, and calves, and things like that. So if you're worried about your knees and hips, I suggest getting a lower offset shoe, something below 8 millimeters. I have two road running shoes I use. One is a 4 millimeter, that's my Saucony Freedoms. And then I have a 0 offset shoe, which are my Ultra Paradigms. Those are my shoes. I like the low offset. However, if you're more worried about your ankles, your Achilles tendon, calves, and that lower part of your leg, consider getting a higher offset shoe, maybe something above 8, maybe something in the 10 to 12 region. But experiment, see what works best for you, but make sure they got some cushion. Now, the other thing about shoes is wear. You want to be watching and paying attention to the wear in your shoes. Somewhere around 300 miles, you want to be looking at them, saying, do they need to replace? You could get more than 300. I typically don't get quite 300. You might get 400 or 500, but watch that wear, because that wear on your sole can impact your running form. Now, next thing to consider is rest or fatigue. Nothing will cause an injury quicker than being fatigued. So you want to make sure you have adequate recovery between runs, but also make sure you're getting adequate rest during your run. By that I mean consider doing the Jeff Galloway run, walk, run method, which is taking frequent walk intervals between your run intervals, which helps minimize fatigue and risk of injury. If you're not familiar with that, I'll put a couple links down in the description section that you can study up on, but do run, walk, run to avoid joint injury. Also consider strength training, especially your legs and your glutes. I have a video on glute strength training. I'll share at the end of this one. You can take a look at. I used to have an issue with patellar tendonitis, which is a tendon in the knee, and I started doing leg extensions at the gym. Really took care of it pretty quickly, so consider that strength training of your legs and your glutes. Now, probably the biggest culprit in joint injury in running is poor form. There's a couple key things you want to pay attention to about your running form. First thing is foot strike. You kind of want to strike in the middle of your foot, not the heel. And the best cure for that is increase your cadence and shorten your stride. So if you think your heel striking or your stride's too long, shorten that up and run a little quicker cadence. Now, next thing you pay attention is your posture. You want to keep your back straight, keep your head up, keep your shoulders back, keep your arms at your side, elbows bent at 90 degrees. That's all important as far as posture. The other thing you want to do, of course, is lean into your run, but that lean should come from your ankles, not your waist. If you want to lean from your waist, you can go straight on your lower back, which could impact your hips and your running form. Now, last thing I want to mention is glucosamine and chondroitin. A lot of people swear by it. I do not take it. My research shows mixed results. Some people says it helps their joints. Some people get no relief from it. I neither recommend it or tell you not to take it. It's your decision. I suggest you research it very thoroughly, and above all, talk to your healthcare provider about it. But it is a consideration if you're suffering from constant joint aches or in your hips and your knees. So make sure you got the right shoes on, decrease your stride, increase your cadence a little bit, watch your form, do a little strength training, make sure you get adequate rest, and you can have a joint injury-free running experience. Hey, thanks again so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to my channel and click that subscribe icon down in the corner. Bye-bye. Happy running.